One of the other things to do during Ren Fair as a group is to go to the main arena and to watch the jousters do their thing. They put on the shows a day on Friday and Saturday, one on Sunday. Now the first show is scheduled for when the children are still here, around 1 p.m. if I remember. The royal court, led by the Imperial Majesties, and a good part of our group usually go to watch. After all, the Imperial Majesties are the king and queen of fair. First time you see the jousters, it could be a lot of fun. I go because my job is bodyguard to His Imperial Majesty, as well as to help to safeguard our own children who attend the jousts. After all, we wouldn't want any of the children in our group disappearing, now would we? The day show is okay, even though I've seen it over a dozen times. Unfortunately, they haven't updated what they do. It gets more than a little boring to me after a while. Like any other performance you've seen too many times. They finish up the daytime show around 2 p.m. We then all head back to camp to relax, grab water and maybe grab a light snack, and then to do whatever personal stuff we wish to do. Nobody from our group goes unaccompanied around Ren Fair, purely for safety reasons, just in case. It is Ren Fair, and some people are truly stuck on stupid, too aggressive, and too much alcohol. After 3 in the afternoon on Friday, most of the children have left, and honestly, we have to find things to do just to kill time. The adults don't start coming in usually till around 5 p.m. at the earliest, when they get off of work. It gets a little boring sometimes. I usually use this time to visit my friends in other groups as well as among the merchants, and I even explore a little bit to see what is new. There are always new merchants as well as new Rennies, those of us who do Ren Fairs to meet and hang out with. Just after the joust ends, a couple of the children from our group, specifically 2 of the Emperor's and Empress's children, wish to make a foray over to the Merchant's Row to do some shopping. One of the ladies of the group and I volunteered to go with them this time, her as the obvious guard, myself as passive, standing to the side, watching out from the side, looking for people watching the children too much. Fortunately, there are no such problems there. After about 30 minutes, the children finish their shopping, so we head back to the camp, me escorting them there. It was a successful foray for them. They were able to purchase what they were looking for. They thank us for the escort and then show the Emperor and Empress what they have bought. The Imperial Majesties are reasonably impressed. I then go out with one of my friends in the group to look around for myself, in my case, looking at the blade dealers and books. I love to read. There is some really nice stuff. Among the blade merchants, some of it is even combat quality, though I am not overly surprised by this. After visiting those merchants, I go to visit my friends Dave and Cheryl, the leather merchants. I have been friends with them for well over 20 years. Dave is a great person, as is his wife and children. After swapping stories with them and catching up on our personal lives for about an hour, trading jokes, it's time to move onwards to visit other people. It's always fun, by the way. After I leave them, I go to visit another group that I used to be part of called ECS, which is short for the Empire of Chivalry and Steel. I still have quite a few friends there, so I stop by to say hi. After that, I go to visit my favorite medieval mercenary group, Black Talon. I am friends with just about everyone in that group. A great bunch of guys and girls, as well as our opponents in the Blood of Heroes event that I will describe to you later in the story. They are busy fighting children with padded weapons called boffer weapons. It's a lot of fun watching them beat on or get beaten on by the children that they are fighting playing with. It raises for them some money for their projects. I hang out in the back with them for a little while before we head back to camp for dinner. It was a very good series of visits. I got to see many of my old friends again. It was great. I'm getting old, 67 years old to be exact. Nice to see them again. It's always nice to see them, though. It's amazing how important seeing my friends has become to me as I've gotten older. Dinner is usually something quite simple on Fridays, starting around 5:30 and finishing around 6:30 so we can go the night jousting, which starts around 7 p.m. The main feast is usually on Saturday night and is usually a multi-course meal. And to imagine, the wonderful cooks make the food for our enjoyment. I really do wish to thank them for all their hard work and their kindness. After all, we are not paid actors. We do this because we enjoy it. We contribute money to our kitchen, so we do not have to pay the high fair prices for food. We even eat, for the most part, with medieval-style utensils. To us, this is just part of the game that we play. I've eaten mashed potatoes with a set of chopsticks, which freaked out a visiting prince. The look on his face was priceless, at least to me. We all get to dress up and play medieval lords and ladies. Of course, that is what we are there for. If you are of the right mindset, this can be a heck of a lot of fun. We also get to get in our armor, carry swords, and play in our own fantasy world together. It is a shared fantasy, if you will. As time goes by, after we have just finished dinner, we start to get ready to go to the evening joust at the main combat field, which just happens to be right behind our encampment. This spectacle is more for the paying public than it is for us, and they love it. The majesties, this time, are accompanied by a few of our gentry as well as a small guard, mainly to keep the fairgoers off of the stage, where that the majesty's thrones sit, as well as to guard the children in our group, and as well as keep an eye on His Imperial Majesty. It's the job. After all, we do not wish any of our children to go missing after all, nor anyone to bother His Imperial Majesty. I know that I'm being repetitive on this, but it is a very important point, being we had trouble a couple of years previously, with a fairgoer seeming to wish to get way friendly with one of the children in our group. It was scary, shows that weirdos are everywhere, and we have to watch out for them. We do not let any of our children wander around fair without an escort for this very reason. Usually, 1 or 2 adults will accompany the children as they wander around fair, as I already described earlier. I've done that duty myself, as I have already explained. 1 adult will go directly with and 1 will shadow them to keep an eye out for threats. I'm sure the idea of snatching a child at Ren Fair has been thought of, but until now, not acted on. Fortunately, at least at this Ren Fair, maybe others. We also once had one of our kings get assaulted in one of the parking lots a couple of years ago. Bunch of stupid drunks. Some of our royalty also stay in camp to receive visitors. At least this night, we go to the jousting field, or main fighting field, about 10 minutes before the event is scheduled to begin. And the majesties, when they arrive, wave to the crowd and get themselves seated for the event. I prowl around, making sure that we have enough people to keep an eye on the majesties and the children. All seems to be well. The jousters come out and bow to the majesties. In these times, Her Imperial Majesty will give each of the jousters a favor to show that they represent her, and then eventually go into their act. As I've said previously, I've seen their show at least 20 times. The enjoyment I get is from playing my part as the bodyguard to our emperor, as well as keeping a close eye on the children in our group, whom join us. I usually carry a wooden sword, more to use as a threat as opposed to an actual weapon. There usually is no need, and so IT begins. The jousters are very good at what that they do, even if I am bored by their act. They and their horses are very well trained. The show goes on seemingly as it normally does. The crowd is highly entertained. About of the way through the show, though, it suddenly gets strangely very dark in front of us, followed by a loud ripping sound that strangely Only those of us near the stage can seem to hear and or see this extraordinary event. This is followed by our seeing what appears to be a rip in the air, with green hands trying to pull open up that rip even wider. And we hear voices in a slithering voice saying, "Fools, you cannot open the portal like that. It must be the wrong night. Either that or I don't have enough power." Fortunately for us, they do not succeed in opening the portal or gateway or whatever it is. The rip eventually reseals itself and closes. It gets back to normal lighting again. I quietly asked the Majesties if they had just seen and heard what I just have. Most of us are very freaked out by this very strange happening. There is a lot of uncertainty among us. The looks on all of our faces were a mixture of both fear and amazement. Both the Majesties, as well as everyone on or near the stage, have seen this, and Her Majesty literally shushes me and tells me to be quiet about it for the moment, and wait till we get back to our camp to discuss all of this. Most of the crowd seems to be quite oblivious to this. It seems that what we saw was two-dimensional, which means that it had height and width, no depth. And that is why you had to be standing in just the right place to see the event. Very strange stuff. My hairs are literally standing up on end because of this. I do not scare easily, but this has me at least a little afraid. I can guess, but I do not like what I am guessing that I just saw. To put it politely, to me, it was simply horrifying. A few of the fair-goers saw it also, but most thought it was all just part of the show. Thank the gods for this. The panic that they would have caused would be totally catastrophic if they thought that it was not part of the show. Besides, nobody would ever believe them anyway. I saw the event firsthand, and I am not 100% sure of what I just saw. When the joust is over, we quietly and quickly go back to our encampment to try to relax and think about what we have just seen. There is an awful lot to think about. The Majesties announced that there will be a court after fair closing to talk about what we had just seen. The ones who stayed in camp are not at all aware of what just transpired. I believe that they, maybe, are the lucky ones. After 10 p.m., the fair closes to the public, and that is when we hold our emergency court, where those of us that were there at the joust who have seen the rip in the air and can then relay what we saw to the others in our encampment. Like I said, this was a very scary incident. There is initially a great deal of disbelief and skepticism when we explain what that we saw, that is, until Her Imperial Majesty explains to all what that we saw. To put it politely, some of the populace are in utter shock. I saw it, and am still very shocked by what I saw. I almost wish that I can unsee it, but see it, I did. It is a way too late for that type of thinking. Her Majesty then tells us of legends going back maybe several centuries of such things happening. It seems that there are such legends in almost every culture of goblins. She tells us that she believes that we, at this Ren Fair, are about to be attacked by beings from a place that she calls Goblin Realm, and that their objective will be to steal the children in the crowd, as well as possibly some of the younger women. It seems that they need the children for food, as well as their energy for some of their arcane rituals. The women, possibly for breeding purposes. This is backed up by the thoughts of others who have studied the arts arcane, also known to most as witchcraft. To put it politely, this is truly extremely scary stuff. Almost none of us thought that anything like this could be real. We were so wrong on so many levels. If it wasn't so serious, it would almost be funny. Instead, I am almost shaking in my boots. It is thought about and then mentioned about the missing children from about a year before. After all, it was on the news and we all heard of it. It is supposed that maybe they were taken by the goblins on that night about a year ago. I tell the Majesties that it does make a strange kind of sense to me. The timing is just too good, or bad, for that mother and her children. Being we are not aware of other missing children reports, around this same time of year. In previous years, it is hard to go back further than that. After all, we do not have access to the police missing persons database. This may have been going on for a long time, for all that we know. Others at the meeting support my thoughts. After all, the 4 children and their mother seemed to disappear into nothingness. Not even a trace of them. Even the police had given up looking for them, being there were absolutely no clues. No tracks, no bodies, no signs of struggle, no nothing. They were never seen again. After the information is disseminated to the rest of our guild, the meeting breaks up with many of us discussing among ourselves what we saw, as well as our fears. The Majesties then call a meeting of all the senior officers in our guild, so we could figure out what, if anything, we can do as a group. Actually, if there really is anything we can do. I am invited to this meeting or council, if you will, because of my seniority in the group, as well as my own studies of the arts arcane, and my being more level-headed than most. The Majesties know that I rarely panic and have some combat experience. To quote a line from the book Dune, fear is the mind killer. It most truly is. You fight fear by not giving into it. I am trying not to.